Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October 3rd meeting of the Albany County Commissioners. Thank you for joining us. Just a few housekeeping notes. If you have your phone on, if you turn it to vibrate or silent, that would be super. Thank you so much. And then if you do have a side conversation, just to give you a heads up, the microphones in the ceiling do pick up those side conversations, and we live stream. And so they'll be a part of the internet forever if you'd like to be. So if you would rather not have that happen, if you just step out the hallway and talk, that would be helpful maybe to you guys also. So just a heads up. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and Commissioner Jones. Present. Commissioner Rivera. Here. And Commissioner Goss are also here. If you would stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, we have 2 public hearings. The first is the Palm Conditional Use Application CU-01-23. We'll go in the room initially to take any comments for or against the Palm Conditional Use Application CU-01-23. Are there any comments? Okay, how about online? We're having the public hearing for the Palm Conditional Use Application CU-01-23. Are there any comments for or against that? Last call, both online and in person. Commissioners, I'd entertain a motion to close that public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, oppose, same sign, please. That motion carries. The next public hearing is the Logan Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA-03-23. We'll follow the same format. Anybody speaking on or against the Logan Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA-03-23? How about online? Last call in person and online. Commissioners, if I get a motion.
So moved. Second.
It's moved and seconded to close the public hearing for the Logan Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA-03-23. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 4, comments from the public. If you would like to make a comment, if you would just state your name, and if you're not from Albany County, if you just tell us where you're from, that would be great. If not, we'll just assume that you're from Albany County. How about it in person? Come on up, Heather. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioners, Chairman. I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce our intern, Trevor. He has started with our office. He is working on his master's degree at the university. Trevor is a graduate of our adult program, and he's been a huge asset in getting our policy and procedure manual updated. He'll be helping with the new grant, those kind of things. But I wanted the chance to toot his horn and introduce him to the commissioners.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looks like we got somebody for the town team basketball. This is fantastic, Trevor. Awesome. Any other comments?
Morning,
good morning, Anissa.
Good morning. I just want to bring forth a proposal to host the trick-or-treating here in the courthouse again on October 31st for the community. David would also like to do it at the planning office. So we are proposing that to be from 3 to 5. I talked with the elected officials and department heads yesterday, and they were all in favor. So
awesome, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Taylor, you know, do we need something on the meeting to approve that?
Made formal action. I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other comments here in public? And then if not, we'll go online. Last call for public comment in person or online. Commissioners, I entertain a motion to close that public comment.
I move that we close the public comment period. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 5, disclosures. Commissioner Jones, any disclosures?
Not that I can think of today.
All right. Commissioner Ibarra, any disclosures?
I have none.
And none for me also. Item 6, considerations of changes on the agenda. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. I would ask that we remove item number 24. I need to run that through council for the fire district before we bring it for you, so we can make sure we have a final agreement before it's in front of you.
Okay. 24 is off. Any other changes, Kayla, please?
Can I add action regarding executive session just at the bottom, probably under 36A maybe? I just forgot to put it on there. I don't know that we'll have any action coming out of executive session, but I'd rather have it on there.
Okay. It's added.
Thank you.
Any other changes to the agenda? And commissioners, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing that, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That moves us to the regular agenda. Item 8, proclaim the week of October 1st, 2023 through October 7th, 2023 as National 4-H Week. Amanda, good morning.
Well, this week is National 4-H Week, and we have a lot of fun activities planned. So I don't know if you've all looked around town, but we have some window decorations, window displays, and we have some of our little plywood animal herds out and about to kind of showcase 4-H. So anyway, I just have a proclamation here to proclaim this week as National 4-H Week here in Albany County. So the proclamation reads, whereas 4-H youth across the nation are leading efforts to solve problems in their communities and make a difference for their futures. Whereas 4-H is one of the largest youth development organizations in Wyoming and the largest in the nation with over 6 million young people. Whereas 4-H in Wyoming claims 7,059 youth members and 1,237 adult volunteers, while Albany County's 4-H program numbers more than 451 members and more than 116 volunteers. Whereas 4-H, as a part of the University of Wyoming Extension, is a program where youth learn through opportunities that provide them hands-on experiences in 4-H's mission, mandates of science, engineering, technology, healthy living, and citizenship. Whereas research continues to prove that young people that are involved in 4-H are twice as likely to plan to attend college, more likely to avoid risky behaviors, more likely to contribute to their communities, and more involved in leadership roles for their future than those not engaged in 4-H. Now, therefore, we, Pete Gozar, Terry Jones, and Sue Ibarra, members of the Albany County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim October 1st through 7th, 2023 as National 4-H Week in Albany County. We urge the people of this community to take advantage of the opportunity to become more aware of this special program that enhances our young people's interest in their futures as part of Albany County 4-H youth development, and to join us in recognizing the unique partnership between our county and our state university system.
Thank you, Amanda. Commissioners, any questions?
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. And thank you for your support of the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it. Well, I take a motion to proclaim October 1st through October 7th, National 4-H Week.
I move that we proclaim the week of October 1st through October 7th, 2023 as National 4-H Week. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Those are big numbers. I was really impressed. Thank you for adding those to the proclamation. 9, present for discussion concerns of having no medical director in Albany County for the volunteer emergency medical services. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. I did provide a 1-page document. I wonder if that's in your review. I come to you for a discussion item, something I think needs to be clear that we do have an issue in Albany County right now. A little bit of background for me. I've been a volunteer EMT in the county since 1999. And through that transition of time, we've seen quite a bit of change in medical direction. As documented here, I've seen 7 different medical directors for the Albany County Volunteers. By state statute and by regulation of the Department of Health, EMTs in the state must follow medical direction. They're responsible for providing the protocols and the scope of practice for the EMTs to practice. During this time of transition from 1999 to 2023, as we saw all these changes occurring, it was fairly seamless. As each new medical director came on and new transition happened, as a volunteer, I didn't have to do anything other than I would see someone new reviewing our protocols and so forth. That seems to have kind of fallen off the table here with this last transition. To the best of my knowledge, Ivinson Memorial Hospital and perhaps someone from the county has participated in contracting with the primary physician group that provides services at the emergency department. That covered both the volunteers, potentially with a different medical director than what we call the paid service here at Laramie Fire. In this last transition, the discussion and contracting has occurred so that Laramie Fire does have a new medical director, Dr. Jim Waters, but the volunteers within the county have been left off the table. We have no director as of April 2023. By state statute, again, and regulation, we cannot provide medical care in the setting in the state of Wyoming without medical direction. And we can't do simple things such as have someone write a prescription for us to have oxygen replaced in our oxygen bottles and the equipment which requires prescription medication, sharp objects, and so on that we might approach a patient with. Where it's fallen off the table, I'm not sure. I'm just someone who says I need to bring this to your attention because we're in a situation where we need something done with this particular placement. It affects a large number of individuals. I've tried to list those for you. All the services, if you will see, outside of Laramie Fire, who do have certified, licensed within the state, emergency medical responders, all the way up through paramedics, working in a volunteer capacity within our county. So we need some resolution of this matter. I'm more than willing to assist and hold hands in the sense of trying to bring what I think is the right parties together, but I need to bring it to your attention.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, Jerry, have conversations occurred with Dr. Waters to see if he's willing to serve as the—
Yeah, in fact, I have an email contact with him as of middle of May, where I had already spoken with him in person to say, do you understand what's happening here? I volunteered with Jim for actually several years with Albany County Search and Rescue, as well as ski patrollers. So he's a good friend. And he said, yeah, I know negotiations are happening with Laramie Fire, and I'm being identified as the physician under the aligned providers. At that time, it was Summit Medical Group. They've changed names. He is very willing to take on the role. However, he is not currently contracted to take on the role for direction for the volunteers.
Thank you. So what does it take to get him?
So the convenience of, if we will, having a contract that covers both entities altogether is defined the paid versus the volunteers. I believe, and I have not seen the documents, would involve changes to the contract written with Ivinson Memorial Hospital and aligned providers of Wyoming to include the county responsibility under that role of medical director. And that means I've made attempts at contact with, I believe, the appropriate people at IMH. I am an employee of IMH as a registered nurse and have not had immediate feedback from them. And that would be the chief financial officer and the chief operating officer at IMH. But that would be the most, if you will, convenient and I think expedient way to cover all the entities we see.
And so how long have you been trying to contact them and
since
not
the
had
middle
a
of
response?
May. Since the middle of May. Yeah.
Jennifer, do we have some kind of template contract?
So commissioners, the fire district, as you're aware, runs under its own board. We don't have any authority under that, but Luke Hawkins from the fire district is here. If you have questions for him, I know their attorney, Megan Getz, has been working on what that's going to look like for them and EMS districts. She's been having conversations with the Attorney General, one of the attorneys in the Attorney General's office as well, but I'm sure Luke can answer questions about what's gone on with their process and where they are in it more than I can.
Thanks, Jerry. Luke, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Specific questions or just in general?
Well, to your knowledge, where are on your end, where is the in the process?
Sure, yeah, this is a great question. So Jerry brings up great points. As you know, as a fire protection district, we have not in the past had any buy-in for EMS. In the last meeting, last month, I believe, 2 months ago, the fire district did vote to look at ways that we could provide EMS services. And part of that was investigating what contracts needed to be made. Previous boards have always said they would not invest any money into EMS. So we've always just been totally away from it. This board, however, is invested in trying to create some relationships to become more EMS associated. I have also spoke with Dr. Waters, and then Chief Hotchkiss is here as well. He's also been part of the conversations to figure out how do we best provide and support for the EMTs that we already have in the county. This is, there's multi-layered problems going on here in terms of how our EMTs have been trained, what those record keepings are, and then whose license that they're working and operating under. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. The fire district itself has never said that we would, because we're a fire protection district. Only 2 months ago, we said that we would investigate different ways that we could do this. So it's kind of fortuitous that Jerry brings this up for us, because this is the table that we want to sit at. How those negotiations, how those contracts are built, I don't quite know yet, but we've got multiple agencies, both Laramie Fire, the Albany County Volunteer EMTs. Chad Dinges has some people that he's interested in making sure that we've got protection for. So we've got all the agencies and players in place to try to make something happen, but it's happened much more quickly than we anticipated. So I'm not sure exactly what those contracts are between Laramie Fire and IMH and how that works, other than to say, from what Jerry's telling me now, is that there's some gaps. So we're interested in creating those solutions. We're interested in making those solutions happen. A suggestion might be if there's an appointee through the county that could help us negotiate with IMH, that would be great. And honestly, the details, Chief Hotchkiss may be able to provide some more insight into those as well, of how A, B, C, D would occur. But we're very eager to try to make something work for our volunteers.
Thank you, Luke. Any questions? Luke. Jerry, a real quick question. Sure. Do you have any ideas at scope of practice? Is it they don't feel that the volunteer EMTs would be operating that way, not well trained? Do you have any idea of why they might not sign this contract?
I don't right now. In fact, I think we've moved in a very, very positive way, thanks to Chief Hotchkiss. Over the last 3 years, almost 4 now, we have had common protocols across the Laramie Fire Department, as well as the volunteers within the county. It's the very same document and running on the very same application that Mike has put together. So the previous 2 medical directors, David Pizzarda and Mark Wayful, signed off on those protocols. They are complete from the standpoint of covering emergency medical responders all the way through paramedics. So I think the structure is in place to make sure that the scope of practice agrees with Wyoming law and has been, again, reviewed by those previous practitioners as being appropriate. As volunteers, we have maintained a structure so that we can do the training of our volunteers. We meet monthly for 2 hours at least per month to provide them with the continuing education they need in order to be at the state and national level recertifiable. We invite our medical director into each of those meetings and so forth with us to overview what we're doing and how we're training. So I think we can bring them all up to an agreeable level so that the medical director would be comfortable with that. And the authoring of a contract to do that, I don't see issues with that other than who's providing the funding behind that to make it comfortable for them to do it. As I said, Jim Waters does want to do this task, but he needs to be covered so that he's appropriately not responsible for something coming out of his immediate pocket.
And covered not only contractually for payment and also liability insurance.
Liability is very critical. Yeah. And since it's been done through aligned providers, my understanding is it's only a minor bump in the contract they had with aligned providers to do the medical direction.
Okay. Okay. Michael, did you have any idea? Was it just an oversight? The volunteer EMTs were left off of the contract with the IMH, or maybe you weren't in that room?
No, I don't think it was an oversight. I think it was intentional. I think it needs to be a separate contract.
Okay.
And that's what Dr. Water requested.
Okay.
Just for all those reasons, for liability. I don't know if he needs payment.
Yeah.
I think he probably wants to do it for free, but he needs to be covered liability wise.
Okay.
He wants something in writing to define responsibilities for himself and for, for people. So
okay.
I don't think it's insurmountable, and I'll work on that this week and talk to him directly and try to see what I can do to facilitate that.
Thank you, Michael. Would you be able to maybe send us over you guys' template contract so that we might have something to work with and then we can get this going? Any other questions, anybody?
Yeah, looks like Chad has something.
Yeah, Chad.
Yes, I just want to mention that for rural fire, EMS has never been one of our missions. However, we do have firefighters that are trained in EMS, and I have an interest in this moving forward and getting this taken care of. I just wanted to offer up that I believe that our office could handle a financial commitment if there were one involved in covering this agreement. So we'll pitch in with that, as well as kind of a point of contact with the county, and I've been in communications with Jerry, chief, regarding these matters. So I'll step forward to try to help orchestrate this between all. And one of the problems with this is it involves so many different entities between search and rescue and ski patrol and rural fire and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of getting all those ducks in one row, and I kind of have a finger in a lot of that stuff. So I'll step forward and try to help orchestrate between all the interested parties.
Sure.
And just to add to what everybody else has said, part of the issue on the legal side is volunteer fire does not have the Good Samaritan coverage. So they're not covered like an EMS district if they have the training and certifications, if they're the first on the scene, they don't have statutory exemption coverage that EMS districts do have. So the problem that Megan is working on with the AG's office and the state EMS office is trying to figure out how, if we don't have an EMS district, but we have on our volunteer fire departments, those people who have the appropriate trainings and qualifications, what do we do then? Because they're not covered under a statutory exemption, and they're not covered under the Good Samaritan laws, because they are responding generally. They are on the scene because they were paged as a fire call, which is sometimes traffic control, which is if there's a fire that happens as a result of a wreck. So that's the liability piece that I know the fire district is trying to deal with, to make sure that they're not putting their volunteers in a terrible position.
So if we get a EMS district, will that be alleviating some of this problem?
So under the EMS district, they would have that coverage. I think what they're looking at, that requires setting up a whole nother board separate and all of that too. So that is something that has been looked into, and they're working on seeing what they can do with the existing fire district with the people who are qualified.
Right.
So we're trying to see what we can do from all angles.
Thank you all. So appreciate it. Jennifer, maybe they could work under our liability form or something like that. I'm wondering how the city covers that liability. Not to put you on the spot, you don't have to know.
I would say I don't know off the top of my head, but I think I can look into it and see what it takes. The problem is because the fire, it would be different with Chad and his people, because he, as the county fire warden, he has responsibility for certain districts, but where they're in fire district number 1, that's a whole separate board that we don't have anything to do with.
Okay. If I might kind of bring some clarity to that a little bit. So it does get a little bit complicated, but what it boils down to is that while we have great people that are trained to a very high level in EMS, As a fire protection district, we can only be dispatched for fire in terms of fire assist, a motor vehicle accident or whatever. Part of that can also be manpower in terms of like, if Laramie Fire is getting paged out their ambulance to a medical call, but there's a gate that's locked or there's an access issue, or maybe the addressing is wrong or whatever. Like, we are absolutely, as a fire district, within our rights, within our obligations, within everything to be able to go and help and assist. Now, beyond that, once they get on scene, if there's something more than that in terms of supportive care to assist for then medical control or the Laramie ambulance to show up on scene, they can do that. What we can't do as a fire district is be paged out for a medical. Does that make sense? So if somebody calls 911 and says, I have a medical situation, dispatch cannot call Albany County Fire District 1 and say, respond for this medical issue. However, and contractually, rightly so, what they'll do is they'll page out Laramie Fire for this medical issue. Well, they might be 40 miles away. And so they'll also page out a fire assist for manpower to help guide them into that household or that situation or whatever it is. So our volunteers are covered under Good Samaritan for responding to scene, not specifically for medical. It's very, and it's kind of how the world has changed around us over the last couple of decades, right? What used to be super simple has now become very complicated behind the scenes. And what we try to do as a board is try to make it simple for our people, because we don't want our people to be worried about, oh, do I turn left here? Do I turn right? Can I do this? Can I not do this? Should I start CPR? Should I not start people? Like, we don't want them to mess with that at all. We just want them to do what they're trained to do and respond how they should respond. But we as a board have to be very careful about what we're asking them to do within the rules of law. So that's, I mean, this is a problem that's been culminating for years and years and years. And like I said, kind of the world has changed around us. We're trying to catch up to it. So doing our best. And we really appreciate, the work and that Jerry and Mike has done and Chad has done. Like, we've got great people in place. We've got great players. We're just trying to catch up and making sure that we can change this culture so that all of our people are protected.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this up to you.
You bet. We will work on it and we will try to get what we can get done as quickly as we can get it done. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have one last question. Jerry, when I spoke with you, you mentioned some kind of deadline for funding or a grant application to have this in place.
For me, it's the, we will have EMS providers in the county who need to recertify by the end of December of this year. We need a medical director in place for that to take place legally.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Luke, Chad, thank you so much. Item 10, present for approval, the Wyoming Department of Transportation official receipt.
Commissioners,
thank you.
Items 10, 11, and 12 are relating to, you signed an approval for them to do the surveying for their reconstruction on 3rd Street that's going down, and the planning building is there. So this 10, 11, and 12 here are related to that. They've gone through, they've done the survey, and what YDOT is requesting is they want an additional right of way from the county. In the map in your packet, it's the part that's in red. It's right in front of the planning office where that building sits back a little bit. They want part of that space as an additional right of way. So the documents that you have in front of you now are what they're requesting as the additional right of way, how much they're going to pay the county for that right of way, and then the warranty deeds and things if you agree to that right of way.
Jennifer, commissioners, any questions?
Am I right, Jennifer, that I read it's a temporary right of way?
I don't believe so.
Yes, please, sir.
Pat YDOT Cheyenne. Hey. Good morning. Good morning. The map, the exhibit that you have, there's a solid red triangle on there. That's the permanent right of way that's described in the warranty deed. The red and white striped area is just a temporary permit that they need to get on there during construction.
Pat, this is just for disability.
They're redoing the ADA ramps, right?
Yeah.
Okay, for 3rd Street.
Yeah, thank you. Any other further questions? Thank you so much for adding clarity. If not, I'd entertain a motion for item 10, please.
I move that we approve item 10 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 11, present for approval memorandum of understanding between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and Albany County, Wyoming regarding the conveyance of the property to Wyoming Department of Transportation as follows. Parcel 42, lot 11, block 295, Sherrod's addition to Laramie City, situated in government lot 8, section 4, township 15 north, range 73 west of the 6th prime meridian, Albany County, Wyoming. Commissioners, any other questions for this? I'd entertain a motion for 11 then, please.
I move that we approve item 11 is presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 12, present for approval warranty deed regarding parcel 42, lot 1, block 295, Sherrod's addition to Laramie City, situated in government lot 8, section 4, township 15 north, range 73 west of the 6th prime meridian, Albany County, Wyoming. This hereby conveys and warrants the property to the Transportation Commission of Wyoming. Commissioners, any other questions? I'd entertain a motion for 12 then, please.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Pat, appreciate it. 13, present for approval, resolution 2023-017, resolution approving 307 Horse Racing, Inc. to conduct pari-mutuel wagering on live horse racing, historic horse racing, and simulcast events at 867 North 3rd Street, Laramie, Wyoming. Jennifer, and I see we have some of our folks here too.
Yes, so this is similar to the resolution that we did for Wyoming Downs. And this is for 307 horse racing, and they are going to be doing it at Copper's Bar on 3rd Street, but I will let them tell you all their plans.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Jack Greer, speaking on behalf of 307 Horse Racing. I'm a co-founder with my father, founded the company in 2020. I'm 5th generation Wyoming, 5th generation horse racing, and I know you have one of these locations here, but by way of brief background, these facilities are off-track betting facilities that ultimately generate revenue for live horse racing events. We conduct our live race meet in Gillette, Wyoming at the Camplex called Energy Downs. Also, here's Kyle Ridgway, the partner that I partnered with at 307 First. The main intention of the company was twofold: be a local horse racing operated company founded by local people invested in Wyoming racing, as well as local ownership. So we partnered with 307 First, also known as Works, Wyoming Employee Resource Capital Services out of Casper, wholly owned subsidiary of that company. Kyle's here to speak on any questions about the resolutions, if you all have any, and I'm here to answer any questions about the operation or the company that maybe you have. But we're thrilled to be a part of the community here. This would be our probably 10th location in the state. We currently have 8 right now and working on opening a 9th location in Rock Springs. But we look forward to being good partners of the community here and ultimately generating some more revenues to help the live racing industry in the state of Wyoming. Also in the room today are Jared and Jaron, owners of Copper's Bar, and Ray McElwee, who's also part of Grow House and the parent company from the construction side. So any questions from the commission? I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, so is the construction completed as far as the Copper Bar to accommodate this?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, we have not started any construction. This would be the first part of the process. We would need county approval, and then that would be a part of our application to the State Wyoming Gaming Commission. And then this county resolution is a part of that application to get that site approved. And ultimately, we would then start working on the project, if not slightly before, but it is minor construction to the facility. There's no exterior changes that we're planning on at this time.
Mr. Chairman.
You bet.
Yeah, we do expect to do minor stuff on the outside to dress up that building, and the interior work. We will have restroom work, of course, and there's not currently air conditioning, so there'll be mechanical work that's necessary. And so we'll be opening the roof. We'll be doing some things to that building. And then as we work through, I'm sure the city will have requirements for the site. I think if we exceed some level of construction, we'll be improving the site also.
Well, you should be applauded for operating benefits to your full-time employees. I do appreciate that. I read that in your application. Talk to me a little bit about how do you bet on historical horse racing? How does that go? Right, the outcome's already known, right?
The outcome is known. It is an actual historic, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. The outcome is a predetermined outcome. But you do not know what that outcome is. So when you are betting on these races, it actually gives you I'd say bar graph version of these statistics. Jockeys a 70 and horses an 80 and the trainers a 50. And you can just rank these horses or your pick by those bar graph statistics. And then ultimately you place that wager. Typically you're betting on at least 3 races at a time, and those play out that game rather quickly, and either you've won those predetermined races or not, but you do not know how those races were ran or where they were or when they were. But it does show you those statistics once you place that wager. Those races actually do present themselves on the machine.
Okay, so this is historic from Energy Downs, or you would maybe bet the 73 Belmont and everybody wants Secretariat, but
yeah, great question, Mr. Chair. These are international statistics dating back roughly about 40 years at this point. So there's a large library of races that these wagers are taken from. Just some history about why they're here, and specifically to Wyoming. As horse racing used to be back in the day, the biggest form of gaming or gambling, if you will, and where people went to place wagers to make a buck. Those days slowly went away with Vegas, Atlantic City examples, class 3 gaming, if you will. So states like Wyoming in particular, where we didn't have legal gambling here and still don't, aside from the reservations, our racing industry struggled. The number of people that used to go to these racetracks and bet on these horses and ultimately drive the revenue to make racing possible slowly went away. By the late 90s in Wyoming, there was no horse racing. So you had states legalize a form of pari-mutuel wagering, which is what these games are, but to compete really with class 3 gaming in states that had legal horse racing, again, to drive revenue to keep the horse racing industry alive. And it's been a huge success in Wyoming. The total handle for 2022 was just over $1.1 billion in the state of Wyoming. It's completely revived the industry. There's 3 racetracks operating now, each doing a minimum of 16 days each. The Wyoming State Breeders' Fund is well in excess of $5 million. So it's a thriving industry. We actually have the most lucrative industry in the nation in terms of the amount of money you run at per capita or quota of horses. So this is a place to be in the racing industry right now.
Does an organization like yours have a responsibility for the gambling addictions and education piece there also?
Absolutely, yes. We have all that messaging and part of our advertising and marketing campaigns, as well as advocate for that in our facilities with certain protocols, and ultimately do donate to some of those organizations as well.
Do you have a certain percentage every year of like net or gross take, or
there is not a required amount? No.
Commissioners, any other questions? Mr. Ridgway, do you have anything to say? Would you like to add anything to the conversation? You certainly don't if you don't need to.
I don't think so, Commissioners. I just appreciate you allowing me to appear remotely and for taking the time to consider the project. We're excited about it and excited to show you all the product we can offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Commissioners, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for 13.
I move that we approve item 13 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good luck, y'all. And we're looking forward to seeing what happens at Copper's Corner there. Thank you. 14, approve and authorize the county treasurer to refund Michael Gary in the amount of $917.32 for paid 2023 taxes for incorrect square footage. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm here on Chelsea's behalf. So if you have any questions against the taxable correction, just let me know.
Commissioners, any questions? Karen?
I think I have it.
If not, I entertain a motion for 14, please.
I move that we approve and authorize the county treasurer to refund Michael Gary in the amount of $917.32 for paid 2023 taxes to tax correct square footage.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Great job, Karen. Thank you. Appreciate it. 15, present for approval termination letter to Ken Garf, Cheyenne, for the purchase and delivery of 2 mid-size 4-door all-wheel drive sport utility vehicles with trade-in. Kayla, good morning.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. In August, we brought forward a bid for 2 vehicles for county all use. Upon signing the contract, in the bid documents, it was stated that the vehicles would be delivered by December 31st of this year. Ken Garf cannot make that deadline, although they did sign the agreement. So now we have to terminate it. And then I'll work with Jennifer, hopefully maybe just to go to the next lowest bidder to see if we can get some vehicles from them. So we just need to do this to start the process so that we can go forward with getting these vehicles here.
Yeah, Ken, what date was given by Ken after?
Spring, they didn't really know of next year. So we are operating on 2 vehicles right now, which is perfectly fine, but with the amount of travel and only having 2 county all use vehicles for all of the county departments, the vehicles are being used probably weekly. So we, of course, went forward with this bid to trade in the old Expedition and get 2 more. So we would have a total of 3, and we were hoping to have them sooner, by the end of the year. But it was not stated in the bid documents that they couldn't get them delivered by that time. If they would have, we wouldn't have not have awarded it to them. But it was found out after they signed the agreement.
Well, how likely is it that anybody else can?
So we've talked to the next lowest bidder, which was Fremont Motors out of Riverton, and so what I did first is asked if Ken Garf could just pull 2 vehicles off the lot for what they have for that amount. They cannot. It's way more expensive to pull them off the lot, of course, because there's more add-ons and things of those vehicles that are on the lot. Fremont Motors can pull off 2 Traverses off their lot that are lower model, and he would still stand behind his original bid. So, but I don't want to, I could make any, we needed to go through the process first in order to do something, but I believe that he'll be able to come through for us and have some vehicles for us. So.
Thank you, Kayla. Commissioners, I entertain a motion. No other questions.
I move that we approve termination letter to Ken Garf. Second motion.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good luck, Kayla. Let's get those. 16, take from the table, appointment of a commissioner liaison to the Environmental Stewardship Committee. I have more information about this. So if I could get a motion to take it from the table, we'll move that way.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yep. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, those opposed, same side. That motion carries. So this Environmental Stewardship Committee, as you'll remember, we had a government efficiency committee where there were 3 councilors, city councilors, and 1 county commissioner. There was a growth and economic development committee. It's once again 3 councilors, 1 commissioner, and then we had an aquifer protection. And that work has been finished. And so the Environmental Stewardship Committee would be 3 councilors and a commissioner to take that work. And so it would seem, since I'm on the government efficiency Terry, you are on the growth and economic development. That Sue, since you are on the aquifer, moving you to the environmental stewardship would make sense. Those people on the new council would be Councillor Richardson, Councillor Cumby, Councillor Doherty. So that is not a new thing. It's just a renaming of a commission that's work has been done.
I'm perfectly happy to serve on that.
Okay. Terry, are you all right with that? Okay. So we'll point Sue to the environmental.
There was this lamp like work in the box.
I know. I
remember their name.
I hear you on IT. IT.
I normally do.
I think she is from the courts up there. Yeah.
You mute them from your box.
Let me see.
But she's from the courts.
Isn't she?
We don't know which court.
Isn't she from district court?
There you go. There we are. All right.
Can we have a motion for that too?
Okay. Can we update a motion for item 17, please?
I move that we appoint Sue Ibera as a liaison to the Environmental Stewardship Committee.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
I believe too, farther down the line on the setting a work session regarding ACTA, I think this committee is going to work into that a little bit too, is what it sounds like. But we can talk about that one further down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna just since we have a new committee, we're just gonna shovel. So thank you for being willing.
I tell you that now.
After it's done, that was nicely timed, Kayla. Thank you so much. 18, award the bid and present for approval. Vehicle purchase agreement between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, and Fremont Chevrolet GMC for the purchase and delivery of 2 full-size 4-door, 4-wheel drive or all-wheel SUV with upgraded suspension and pursuit or police package specifications in the amount of $104,394. Sheriff Avalanche, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you. This is pretty self-explanatory on there. So this was a bid. We had one bidder from Fremont Chevrolet, and the bid that went out didn't have any trade-ins with it. So this is the price for those 2 vehicles.
Commissioners, any questions? Not entertain a motion for item 18, please.
I move that we approve item 18 as presented and award the bid to Fremont Chevrolet. A second motion.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay.
I don't oppose it.
Okay. That motion carries.
Squeaky eye over there.
I know. I was like, what is that?
19.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Avalanche. Present for consideration the fall conditional use application CU-01-23. David, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, commissioners. So this application was submitted by Holly Palm. She's actually online today with us. So if you have any questions for the applicant, she's on there to answer any questions. The request is for a conditional use to put a second dwelling on a property. The property that they're looking at is currently zoned rural residential. On rural residential property, they're allowed to have a second dwelling if it's at least 10 acres and they get a conditional use permit approved. So this property is 38 acres. So they meet both those requirements. And if they get this approved, they'll be able to put a second home on the property. The surrounding properties are both rural residential and then agricultural. Access to this property is off of Harmony Lane. This was submitted to review to a number of outside agencies as well as county offices, and there were no concerns by any of those that provided comments to us. Findings necessary for approval pursuant to Chapter 5, Section 5 of the Albany County Zoning Resolution. Applicant has provided the required notice, posted sign, publication, certified mail. Also, the Board of County Commissioners must make the following findings. The applicant has provided site plan and survey maps as required. that it will pose no harm or public health, safety, welfare harm. That the applicant or the adequate public services are available for the proposed conditional use without creating undue financial burden on the county. And then a number of impacts were required to be addressed. Where this is adding one more dwelling to a property that's 38 acres. There's not much impact that this will cause to the area or to the neighbors. The applicant has provided a complete application, has addressed the potential impacts this use may cause, and upon approval of this conditional use application, the zoning certificate application is required. Findings of fact, the information provided as part of the findings necessary for approval and staff analysis in this report are adopted as the necessary findings for approval of the applied for conditional use. Conclusions of law, the applicant is proceeding in accordance with and in compliance with the requirements of the Albany County zoning resolution. Staff recommended approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of this application. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those, or the applicant is online as well.
Did Palms, did they just move here from Colorado?
I don't know where they moved from. I do believe that the property was just purchased within the last year or so.
So was it Kenny Brown's property? Okay. I just want to make sure I had everything in the right picture in my head.
Yeah.
Don't we normally ask for some drawings on what kind of something they're going to do for a second dwelling?
So with the conditional use application, they're asking simply for the use of a second dwelling. The drawings will come when the zoning certificate application is applied for. So it's not required.
At this point, they have free reign to do whatever they want on that.
Well, they would have to meet the requirements of the zoning district. So they don't necessarily have free reign, but they do have to, I mean, there's requirements that have to be met to get the zoning certificate application, but it could be pretty much anywhere on the property, as long as it meets like setbacks and those other requirements. Yeah.
Lots of people out there are not happy. Not happy at all.
We do have in the packet, there was some communications from one of the neighbors with some of their concerns. I should point that out.
David, I have a question, not particular to this application, but applications that we have had come forward. I'm a little concerned over how planning staff just accepts the applicant's responses to potential issues or impacts and all. Is there nothing further that you guys do? Visit the property, do some kind of analysis as opposed to applicant response? There should be no potential adverse, or we perceive no need for screening or buffering, any of these. And I'm not just saying this, we see this often. Does the planning office not do more than just accept the applicant's response?
We do take a trip to the property and look at the property. We do look at their analyses. There was a time when we did provide additional information, but through discussions, internal discussions, I think with the county attorney's office and others, it was determined that we should just put that in our analysis. If we have any issues in the analysis, that's where we put it. But ultimately, this is what we've been kind of directed to do, not really directed, but recommended to do. We can change that. I mean, like I said, it's been a few years ago, but we did used to provide an analysis for each of the items as well. But that's been removed from, like I said, conversations that we've had internally.
Do you have a comment on that, Jennifer?
In part, it's in the regulations in the zoning resolution. It says that the applicant has adequately addressed. So that's why the language in here says that the applicant's response is this. If there's a question, or if there's other things that have been brought up by the planning staff, they can raise a concern and say, we don't believe the applicant has adequately addressed it. But the language in the resolution itself is that the applicant has provided adequate information. So that's why the language in the staff report is the applicant response. And then if there are staff concerns, those are brought up during the various meetings, and David and Joe are good about bringing up if they have concerns. And as commissioners, you can raise concerns about.
Are those brought up with P&Z? So they're
correct. Yes. Yeah.
So they can just come in and build like a major lodge right there.
We don't have any standards for the size of residence. I mean, we don't limit it to a square footage. Right now, that's not something we regulate.
Right.
But it would stay in the residential zoning, so they couldn't do anything commercial. It would stay within is it rural residential?
So if it's rural residential, then they can't run a hunting lodge out there.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, depends on the business and the scope and all of that. I mean, there are certain things you could do as a home business, but
so what about
they're lodging people in, for a big deal kind of
or even the Airbnb.
And that's something that we do not regulate either. We see a dwelling as a dwelling, whether someone's staying there for 3 days, 30 days, a year.
Yeah.
So, but that is something that has actually came up. Well, it's came up multiple times, and it's went to planning and zoning at least one other time, and there was no interest in discussing that. But we are discussing that now again. So we'll see what happens at the Planning and Zoning Commission
with regard to regulation of Airbnbs.
Yep. I just have real concerns about this because the whole presentation that we got the last time was so fly by the seat of your pants and they weren't willing to give us much information at all. And I don't know, we haven't decided. I'm not comfortable with that kind of indecision.
So Dave, before anything was built, there would have to be plans. Correct. Understanding. Yeah. And they would have to go to the planning and zoning, and you guys would have to make sure that they comply with our regulations.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they could also, David, instead of asking for the second dwelling on the same property, if that isn't something that's going to go through, they would have the ability to do it like a small subdivision on the property and divide out a second lot.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's rural residential. It will allow for a dwelling per 5 acres.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Any entertain a motion for item 19, please?
I move that we provide item 19 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 20, present for consideration the Logan Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA-03-23. David, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a request to down zone a property. So it's currently zoned rural residential, and they're requesting that it be down zoned to agricultural. What down zoning means is just that the impacts of the zoning are lesser than what exists now. So with rural residential, you can do a lot more with your property than with agricultural. The applicant are the Logans, and this property, it's actually about 2,000 acres, and it's south of town along 287. Most of the property is on the east side of 287. There's a little small chunk on the west side of 287 as well. What's required, the findings necessary for approval include they have to provide maps and surveys as required in the regulations. The proposed zoning district amendment generally follows the suggestions of the Albany County Comprehensive Plan, including but not limited to the long-range zoning plan and the priority growth areas and other applicable land use plans. The applicant has just demonstrated that the proposed zoning district amendment complies with the following criteria: compatibility with surrounding properties, consistent patterns of development, economic impacts, natural environmental resource impacts, cultural resource impacts, road network impacts, and impacts to public services and utilities and public facilities. And the notice was also provided as required. And on all those impacts have been addressed by the applicant. This is one where it's in a predominantly agricultural zone, and it should be zoned agricultural. The comprehensive plan shows this as a priority growth area 4, which tend to be locations that are more remote, serve largely and sparingly with gravel roads, have low levels of public services. As a result, they have relatively low growth efficiency rating, meaning provisions of the public services to these areas is relatively expensive, and they are often in active agricultural or environmentally sensitive areas. Conservation and protection of agricultural operations, wildlife habitat, and sensitive lands is also a high priority in priority growth area 4, and low density residential uses are encouraged. Just our basic analysis, the applicant has addressed the potential impacts that the zoning district amendment may cause and has provided a complete application. The planning department believes that the proposed zoning district amendment generally follows the suggestions of the Albany County Comprehensive Plan. These properties are currently zoned as rural residential, and a change to agricultural is compatible with the existing land use of surrounding properties. Findings of fact, the findings necessary for approval and applicant response referenced in this report are adopted as findings reflecting that the applicant has adequately addressed the specific impacts, and the same are incorporated herein. Conclusions of law, the applicant is proceeding in accordance with and is in compliance with the requirements of the Albany County zoning resolution. Staff provided recommendation of approval of this request, and Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Is there any questions for myself?
Any questions? If just agricultural zoning is one thing, but then there was also an affidavit every year that has to be filled out to say that they've made a certain amount of agricultural money, or they have a certain amount of animal units on the property. Did that come up in any discussion? And I know that's an assessor question, but did that come up with, they were asking for this town zoning?
That Joe was kind of over this project, so I'm not sure what the conversations were. I'm just filling in for him today, so I'm not sure what the conversations were that had to do with taxation.
Okay.
But
okay. We'll have to have that, if it's not already known by the assessor, it has to be known, right? Because agriculture is a less taxed form of property, and there has to be a certain affidavits filled out to make that so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, actually, we could pull it up on the like or whatever, but you can show you could pull it up now. It may already be being taxed as agricultural, which if it's using for ranching purposes, I would imagine it was.
The zoning and taxing aren't necessarily together
right now. Yeah, they're not. The zoning map was created from information from 1997, so it's a lot. Most of that has been updated, and so if you see zoning, it's not going to match at all with what the taxation is.
Yeah. Now we'll hopefully get that cleared up, because that needs to be kind of congruent, right?
Except for it varies.
Well,
they go back and forth. Some years they may run cattle on something, and then it's a dry year, they don't run cattle on it because they're not going to trash the ground, and so it goes back and forth. So it's not necessarily always going to be congruent, because Mother Nature doesn't run that way.
Well, it's my understanding the county was zoned from the tax rolls in 97, and that is not ideal. And so, but I take your point, Terry. So we need to fix that.
But it can't be fixed because it changes. It changes from year to year to year.
There are places, Terry, since 1997 have been running agriculture that are rural residential. That needs to be fixed, right? That is 26 years.
Well, maybe not, because maybe it's rural, it may be rural residential, but it's still available for ag to be used. And when you run the cattle on it, then you get the reduction in the taxes when you run the livestock on it. And it changes. It's very fluid. And it's not just cut and dry.
We'll take that up with the assessor's office and
Please do.
Yeah. I'd entertain a motion for item 20.
I move that we approve the Logan zoning district amendment application, adopted and incorporating staff analysis, findings of fact, and conclusion of law as each are stated in the staff report.
Second. I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. 21, present for approval, request for proposal for nurse practitioner services for participants of the Albany County Court Supervised Treatment Program, and direct the clerk to advertise. Heather, good morning again.
Good morning again, Chairman, Commissioners. This is a follow-up. We had submitted this RFP last month, maybe about 6 weeks ago. We did not get any bids. I had sent it out to a couple places, but I was not as aggressive in following up as I should have been. So the bid closed with no, the RFP closed with no bids. So we're just asking for approval to open that bid back up and have it reposted. I have had the company or the agency that was previously providing our services reach out and said that they had a complication with another grant. They are very interested still in providing the services. And so once this RFP opens back up, I will be following up, and then of course, following up with the other options in the county to provide these services.
Thank you, Heather. Commissioners, any questions? I entertain a motion for 21 then.
I move that we approve item 21 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you,
Heather. Item 22 and 23 are kind of all together. So present for approval application to U.S. Department of Justice for the OJJDP fiscal 2023 Building Local Continuum of Care to Support Youth Success Grant, planning efforts for juvenile justice system in Albany County. Kurt and Bailey, please.
Came across this great opportunity with Department of Justice. It's a planning grant to kind of to find our gaps in our juvenile justice system here in Albany County. Things that are required is an asset mapping, a gap analysis, an implementation plan. The grant is only for 18 months. So Kurt and I kind of decided that the best opportunity would be to work with UW and have graduate students work on this for us, because the grant does require a full-time equivalent employee working on it. So, do you want to throw in anything?
Morning, Kurt.
Mr. Chairman, the point of this planning grant really is to set ourselves up to get a full-time, a more permanent grant. We're looking really to get data and the background that the feds are requiring these days to start a program that's outside of the court system, more than just juvenile diversion, which is very low level. We have a gap there basically that we need to fill to stop filing court cases for relatively minor conduct that I think we could handle outside the court system. So this planning grant would simply be a stepping stone to get the information we need, and Bailey can correct me if I'm wrong, to hopefully apply in 18 months or so for a more permanent grant. And it would provide, I think we're going to have 2 grad students. Dr. Frang with the university has been working with us and helping us set everything up. Everything would be housed, I believe, at the university. We're still working on the MOU with the university, but once that's in place, the grad students would be doing the lion's share of the work at that point.
Thank you, Kurt. Commissioners, any questions? I appreciate it. Thank you guys for finding us, for thinking this way. I really do think it's an important piece. Nobody needs a criminal record, right? Thanks. They don't need one. I entertain a motion for item 22.
I move that we approve item 22 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 23, present for approval, letter of support to the U.S. Department of Justice for the OJJDP fiscal 2023 Building Local Continuum of Care to Support Youth Success Grant, planning efforts for juvenile justice systems in Albany County. Same discussion, just a letter of support. Commissioners, any questions for Bailey on this? Not, I entertain a motion for 23.
I move that we approve item 23 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 24 was removed from the agenda early. So we're on to 25. Present for approval, letter of support to Wyoming Business Council for the Community Facility Rehabilitation Grant Program for the City of Laramie's Laramie Plains Civic Center Rehabilitation Project. Bailey.
I've been approached by Trey Sherwood about some funding that's available through Wyoming Business Council in regards to rehabilitation on old schools used as civic centers in the state of Wyoming. I reached out to Business Council. The county does not qualify or is not eligible to apply for the funds. Only the city is. So the Civic Center is partnering with the city to put in an application. I said I would absolutely bring a letter of support towards you all to see if you guys would like to support this project. As far as I know, the project itself is kind of just to do some safety upgrades, which is the main thing for it. So.
Sure, any questions for Bailey?
Okay.
Not that, entertain a motion for item 25, please.
I move that we approve item 25 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Bailey. God, I hope we get it. That would be super. 26, present for approval, agreement between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany and Greater Wyoming Big Brothers Big Sisters for assistance with tobacco reduction and cessation services for youth in Albany County in an amount not to exceed $2,200 through May 31st, 2024. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This will be an agreement with Big Brothers Big Sisters to bolster their Not on Tobacco Youth Cessation Program. They're already doing the work. This is just a prevention's contribution to certify another staff member in that program, and also provide funding for their meetings, food, and also fidget bags, if you will, or coping bags for the students when they finish the program, coloring books, fidget spinners, gum, things like that. So that's what the funds will be used for them.
I'm sure there's any questions. If not, I entertain a motion for 26.
I move that we approve item 26 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
27, present for approval, a new full-time benefit custodial position under the maintenance supervisor and discuss funding for this position. Anissa and Tony, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. So this item, we have had some conversations with Kayla and with Anthony and myself to move away from our cleaning contract currently with Wilkin Enterprises to hire a full-time position to take over that work. So in your materials, you received the potential job description. We also have I also have some numbers to present for you. So if we started this position at a $40,000 salary with benefits and all the fringe that's on top of that, we're looking between $61,201 all the way up to $79,349, depending on which insurance, if they took the county's insurance plan. Currently, we're paying Wilkin Enterprises $63,600 a year. So it would be a savings or a slight increase above what we're currently spending. We've had several conversations about having this position here, giving them the opportunity to bring the building back to a beautiful building that it was previously. So,
Sure, there's any questions?
Yeah, Tony, can one person do this if Wilkinson had more than one person?
I believe so. You know, my previous occupation, I worked a lot with square footage and cleaning area, and and assigning certain areas and how to break it up. And I think one person, if we divided it up correctly, day by day, could do this building, and not only do this building, but do the IT building, because nobody does the IT building right now. And I think it needs to be getting done, for health reasons and otherwise.
I think this is an excellent idea. I'll bring it underneath your preview. Sounds good. Would hours be after hours? As far as
I would like to have a crossover so that I could work with them every day. We can communicate. And not only that, if we go this route, I plan on coming in different times to help strip and wax floors, clean carpets, stuff like that.
I think the hours we're proposing are 2 to 11, so that there's some crossover between Anthony and there's things that can be done while we're still open to the public. So,
and that would help me with some things, because I'm by myself, and sometimes I need help lifting heavy things or moving things, stuff like that.
Commissioners, any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion for item 27.
I move that we approve item 27 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. And I think Gary's under contract until the end of December. Were you proposing that we would start the new year, or how is that?
We haven't discussed that logistics yet. I think, we're hoping to do something sooner. I believe the contract has a 30-day clause that if we were to give 30-day notice, that then we could terminate that contract, but I'll work with Jennifer on that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll work out the logistics and bring it back to the commission.
Thank you. Item 28, present for approval a new full-time benefit position in the Road and Bridge Department, and discuss funding for this position. Lisa and Rob.
Yeah, so I'm really going to turn this over to Rob rather than myself. I know we've had conversations about the need for an additional position for his crew up in Rock River. So,
yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we'd like to add one position to our crew up in Rock River. Currently, there's 3. We'd like to move it to 4. In 2018, as part of the budget cuts, our department was cut 5 positions. So we've been working with pretty much a skeleton crew. And to be honest with you, I think we're starting to get osteoporosis. And we could really use more employees in our department. Right now, I've talked with Kayla and Amanda about where we can get some of the salary, maybe some from the salary line item, and then also we have Boswell Springs wind energy that we could possibly use for a couple of years or whatever for a salary assist.
I think it's long overdue to get another employee in North Albany.
Yeah.
That's just an incredible amount of country.
And we're getting more and more uses up there that's not just agriculture. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I moved up and we approve a new full-time benefit position for the Road and Bridge Department. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? And Rob, thank you. I think at some point you were started at 15 positions and got moved down to 11 positions. And
yeah, we started 15, moved down to 10, and then we added a position in Laramie about 3 years ago now. So yeah, slowly kind of getting back up to the.
We just hope we never have to do that again.
Right, exactly. And that's it. I know there's been some discussion about having a committee or whatever look over. What's the word I'm looking for? Salary or employee
strategic planning, or
that's the word. Yeah, strategic planning for employees and stuff and wages and things. So yeah, so we don't get into that position that we had to do, unfortunately.
That was bad.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
And he said, thanks for working with those two departments.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck getting somebody quick. Item 29, present for discussion, updating office hours for Albany County Public Health to Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and changing Fridays from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or by appointment only and tracking Friday afternoon calls. Kim, good morning.
Good morning. This is like the first time it's not grant related and I don't have Bailey to fall back on. So bear with me. We have been, just to give you a brief background here, we were given a grant from the state for a workforce grant, and it's to try to promote work-life balance for public health employees. And, you know, I started off, because of course it comes from the CDC. Well, what better way than getting some recreation passes, like the rec center passes? That was shot down. Apparently that doesn't fall into their idea of work-life balance. But one of their suggestions was, why don't you start the discussion of moving our summer hours to our permanent hours? I had Jill start tracking our calls on Friday, and in 14 weeks, we've had 19 calls on a Friday. Most of them, when are we getting our flu and what's new about COVID? So not very many calls. You know, people tend to not want appointments on Friday afternoons. It would still be required that all of us have to get our 40 hours, whether we do that before noon on Friday or not, that's up to them. But we always put our clients first. And if they need that Friday afternoon appointment, then we would be there, obviously. So just bringing that to the attention so you guys can start thinking about that, see if you would be in agreement with that. That was the first one. If you have any questions on that.
Commissioners, any questions?
No questions, just happy employees or productive employees.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And just to call if somebody needed to travel vaccinations or flu vaccination on Friday afternoon, would that just rotate between Sarah, Victoria? How does that work?
Yeah. Mostly it's Sarah now, and we are working. So once we fill that vacant state position, that empty nurse position would go to be a backup to travel vaccines. So every program has a backup, as opposed to like calling and we putting you through to that one nurse to like call you back when she's available, which, you know, we had one nurse who was out for 5 days because she tested positive for COVID. So it's not very effective. So we're very hopeful that we can get some applicants for our positions. You know, the state has raised the salary, and I did raise that empty county position. So they're both at the same starting salary. And, you know, hopefully this workforce grant, we can find some extra ways to make things a little easier for everyone. So.
And the workforce grant would cover, what piece of this would it cover? Any?
Well, so they were just suggesting that I try to make our summer hours our year-round hours. And, you know, we're looking into doing like upgrading any of our technology, or as well as like, we're doing like winter coats for the whole staff when we're doing our mobile clinics and things like that, that typically we don't normally have a budget for.
Super. Any other, do you need us to, are you going to bring this back to us for a more
Well, I mean, if
thing
you
for
would
the
like
grant?
to approve it right now, that's fine. I just wanted to give you guys, like, if you did have any reservations, or I know we did talk at our county nurse manager meeting, if like even the state would think about that, where, you know, you're closed on Fridays, you're still there, but you don't have to like be worried about people coming in, and you can do your charting, inventory, things like that. So
I'm gonna make a quick recommendation. I would recommend that you don't approve it right now, because we are still working with other approval stuff for the workforce grant. And we can just say this is something we've talked about with the commissioners, and this is something we'd like to do. I just don't want anything in writing, because public health has some grants right now that are very limited to what they will fund, and it's causing problems. So I just want to make sure we put everything in there, and then we can check the box, say we actually did this after everything's been approved.
Very
works for me. Absolutely. I always defer to what she wants to do. We keep Bailey happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So item 30, present for approval, closure of Albany County Public Health on October 6, 2023 for the purpose of prep planning for mobile clinics and vaccine inventory, and October 13th, 2023 for the AAR for flu pod and staff training team building and work on billing. Kim.
Okay, so I'm going to work on my descriptions for you because that was a lot. But so Friday, I was hoping that we could be close to the public to prepare. We have 2 mobile clinics on Monday since it is the Columbus holiday and we're close to the public. We're doing the Ivinson Home for Ladies, and then we're also doing the Epson Center where we're traveling. It takes a lot to make sure that everything's prepped and ready to go. So I was just thinking if we could be closed for Friday, and then the 13th is the day after our huge, hopefully, knock on wood, flu clinic. And then that way we can start our billing and all of that. It does take a lot for us to do it. One of the reasons why we were one of the only counties to not actually bill for COVID vaccines is because we just don't have the manpower for that. But so that's why I'm asking for this Friday and next Friday.
Commissioners, any questions? I entertain a motion for 30 then.
I move that we approve the closure of Albany County Public Health on both the 6th and the 13th of October for reasons stated.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 31, present for discussion, additional funding for vaccines.
Okay. So when I did my budget, I was not aware that the CDC would be offering COVID vaccines for uninsured and underinsured children and adults, which makes it a requirement for us to carry private COVID vaccines, as well as RSV, the new vaccine. We are not doing adults just because there are pharmacies and providers that do. I guess it's mostly pharmacies, but it's only covered by Medicaid Part D. So Medicare Part D. We're not doing the adults, but we are required to carry that infant vaccine. So I increased my budget when I was unaware of this by $5,000, just to give you an idea of what is coming down the pike. We are enrolled, but we're in a holding pattern to even get any of the COVID vaccines. But after looking at the prices as well, we would prefer to go with Moderna because Pfizer has 6 months to 5 years, 5 to less than 12 years, and 12 and up. Whereas Moderna just has over 12 and under 12. So it makes it easier to keep track of them, as well as Pfizer for the 12 and above is a minimum order of 100 doses, where we're talking 11,000 and change to order vaccines, which is clearly not what I have planned on. I will give you these. These are just if you would like, do you want them? Yeah. These are the prices. So we would plan on doing Moderna, which is, oh yeah, that was a pack. Which one do you have there?
Oh, you needed two.
Which one was passed down as
vaccine?
Was it Pfizer or Moderna?
Moderna.
Oh, perfect. And then that should go okay. So my goal is to do Moderna. We're in a waiting pattern. There is a huge delay in getting them out because it has been so rushed. But with Moderna, it would be 10 doses that we could order at a time for both the 12 and above and 12 and under. So it's more like 1,083 for the 12 and up, and then 1,071. And we would do it by tens as opposed to having to do 100 at a time. So that puts us at 2,000. And then the good old RSV vaccine. So that's $495 a dose. And it will be required again in order to stay compliant with the VFC program, which we get free vaccines for uninsured children. And that comes in boxes of 5. And so we're looking at, there's 2 different types. There's one that's for babies less than 11 pounds. And then the other dose is for greater than 11 pounds. So we're looking at $4,950 for just 5 doses of each weight limit. We would only do the 5, but if we would have to do more, then, you know, my 5,000 contingency budget is kind of blown. So I'm just presenting that discussion that I might be needing additional funding this year. I mean, maybe my bottom line might cover it, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of what is going on and what I'm required to do that I did not know.
So would you clarify for me, how much does it cost per dose that a child is given?
For COVID or the RSV?
Both.
Yes. So for Moderna, we would do the single vial dose, and it would be $117. Well, actually, with our discount through $107.13.
So that's what. Okay, and then the other one?
And then the adults, it would be $108.38, but we would have to order at a minimum of 10 at a time. So we're talking $1,083.80. And that is, so we'd have 10 doses on hand. I'm not sure how that is going to play. That's why I prefer Moderna, where it's less dosages. So then if the demand is there, we can continue to buy. But if it's not there, then we just hold them, and then we're in compliance with our DFC program and because we do offer it to uninsured adults and children, the COVID vaccine.
Kim, if there's a rush on these for adults, for the Moderna, how quickly can you get another 10 or another 20?
Well, so once I think they work through their hiccups right now, and everybody having to order like at the same time, I think it'll go a lot smoother once we get past this initial rush. So it took us 3 days, we registered, it took us 3 days to get that like verified and approved. And then we're just kind of sitting there waiting for the ability to receive the vaccines. So it's kind of unknown right now, but I do think once they get through that initial, everybody has to order now, as opposed to us just handing them out to the community. It will be easier. And just like with our other vaccines, you know, it takes us a couple of days. We order them and then they're shipped overnight. So.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, so we don't need an action item on that one.
No, I just want to, prepare in case I do go over budget.
Okay.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah. Well, and the RSV is, you know, that's where we're getting hit pretty hard at $4.95 a dose. And, you know, as a pediatric nurse who worked in a hospital and seeing what RSV can do to the little ones, it's scary. So it's kind of nice to see that there's actually a vaccine, because, you know, I have had parents terrified in the past, and, you know, it's a virus. Sorry, we can't give you antibiotics. We can't do anything. And, you know, then they ask, can we get it again? Yeah, it can happen again. So, you know, it's a step in the right direction, and hopefully we have good results from it. So I just wasn't planning for either of those. And then the CDC let me know. So.
Have you got a lot of calls about RSV?
Not so far. I am planning on reaching out to the hospital to see if the family care unit has any plans of, it's recommended for those infants born within that RSV season to get the first, that would be the less than 11 pounders, and to see if they're going to make arrangements to give the vaccine. I'm sorry, this is actually not technically a vaccine. It's a monoclonal antibody. So they don't call it an immunization, even though it technically is. But I don't know. Anyway, but my hopes are that they would be able to get that beginning population like, hey, you know, baby was born in November, we can offer you this before you leave. Otherwise, it would be us and if they have a primary provider, which hit or miss.
Okay, wow, that's pretty stiff, but yeah, I guess that's how it goes.
Pretty stiff. That's not it's really stiff.
It is, you know, but luckily, you know, our majority are the ones who are uninsured, and to be able to offer that to them is huge. So
I want to know is how much are they making?
I don't know, but RSV in children is terrifying.
Yeah.
If my kids were little, I'd have paid the $495 out of my pocket if I had to.
Yeah, it is very scary. And like I said, when I was in the hospital back east, that's pretty much all we had were those little RSVers, and you know, they're scary. Yeah, it's just not good. But yes, I do wonder that too about the pharmacies.
Oh, right.
One of my soapboxes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I agree.
Thank you, Kim.
Sure. Thank you guys. I appreciate the time.
Item 32, set a work session for October 17, 2023 at 5 p.m. We have a commission meeting at 6.
So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I've had communication with City Manager Janine Jordan regarding ACTA. This is what this work session is for, is to talk about reinstating ACTA, I believe. I believe this has to do with the grant that they want to get with the West Laramie.
No, this is a grant.
A different one.
There's a different grant that they've been approved for, to my knowledge, but they have to have this in order to like accept the plan.
Yeah, and so this is where I was a little.
City has
Yes.
And this is, I believe it's the transportation.
Yes. Yeah, that's the stewardship, but it has to be started by the county though, from my understanding.
So the transportation board requirements in the statute are that it is a county board. You can involve municipalities and other people, but statutorily it's created by the county.
Yeah.
So hopefully she'll have lots of information for you. I'll say that.
In Albany County previously
used to have
one, but then we did not qualify because we didn't have 40,000 population for federal funding.
So I'm not sure that that's even
so
going to fall under again.
This down, I don't know, to under 40,000 or.
Well, transportation itself is a little tricky. There's looking at grants, you know, it's hard. I have to make sure I stay in my lane. Yeah. There's things the city covers and the things the county covers, and trying to do a whole bus system in my mind, that's a city thing. Okay. So there's things that, you know, I don't look at some grants because it's not a project that it would work for the county. So I don't know those specifics because it's not a grant I ever looked at. And I believe this actually is coming from federal dollars through the state, but I
don't know. And I imagine she'll give you all that information, but that's what it's about. So just so you know.
Will that work with everybody's schedule? 5 o'clock on the 17th? Yep. Okay, we'll set that work session. Item 33, approve vouchers on September 2023 for September 2023. I entertain a motion for that.
I move that we approve vouchers for September 2023. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 34, executive session pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405A III.
That's me.
Okay, and I'd entertain a motion to leave regular session and enter executive session.
So moved. Second.
We moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll stop the video, we'll stop mute, and stop the recording, and then we'll join you back after we're done with the executive session. Thank you.
Go back into regular session.
So Commissioner Jones has moved to return to regular session. Second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Leaving executive session, returning to regular session at 11:43. 36A is action as a result of the executive session. There is no action as a result of the executive session. And seeing no more business before the Albany County Commission on October 3rd, 2023, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Pete.